Okay, so let's get into it. Yeah, fine. So I'll just pin my screen. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yes, of course, fine. Okay, so we will just finish off the problem that we left halfway through during the last session. Okay. So once that is done, we will move on to manpower planning. That is whole of manpower planning and analysis. Fine. So that's the topic for today. And if time permits, we will get into the key performance indicators. Okay. So I'll just open up. Yeah. So let me take you through the question that we were solving. Let's finish that off. So we were actually in, I'll tell you the page number, 465. Yeah. So sorry for scrolling. Give me a second. So it was assembly division. Yeah. It's basically the transfer pricing. Fine, that we actually studied through this. So we have already solved the first and the second part of it. So there are two divisions, assembly and finishing. The assembly division sells some of its parts outside, in the outside market, and some of its parts are transferred at a transfer price to the finishing division, and the finishing division sells it in the open market. So that is the first case that they have given, through which we were able to assess what is the profitability. So it came up to 9,50,000. Okay, so but the proposal was the first proposal and the second proposal. There were few proposals and situations wherein we need to evaluate which one is favorable for the company as such. So in this second proposal, it was given that division assembly has proposed for expansion of the division for an enhancement of capacity by 20% for rupees 20 lakhs. It is indicated that there will be no change in factory fixed cost in the operation of additional volume of job, and division assembly proposes to maintain the transfer to the finishing division to the existing level and sell additional sets to the market at the present price. So if you look at our calculations, we actually made a thing that present capacity is basically 12,000 units, and they are expecting an additional capacity to be produced, which is 20% on 12,000, 2,400 units. Summing up together, it is 14,400, but the assembly division has decided whatever may be the expansion in the capacity, let me go by what I was actually supplying it to them. So that is 5,400 in original place. So whatever is the remaining units, everything it is trying to sell it out in the outside market at 280 rupees. So this comes the sales value of the assembly department. Okay. This is the transfer to the finishing division, and this is what is sold in the outside market. It's 9,000, right? Just a minute. 75% is transferred. So 12,000 may 75%. That's what is 9,000. Yes. So 9,000 is going to be sold outside. Will be transferred to finishing division, and 5,400 will be transferred to assembly division. So thereby we calculated the variable cost also. That is nothing but that is divided by 100. So if you look here, the variable cost, manufacturing of the parts is 6 lakhs, parts purchased is 4 lakhs from the market, so 6 plus 4, 10. Welding cost is a variable cost, 15 lakhs, 15 plus 9, 24 lakhs. So this was the variable cost originally. See, this 24 lakhs is against a production of 12,000 units. But what about this thing? Okay, so what we are going to do is 24 lakhs divided by 100 into 120. Fine. This was basically for Yeah. So this is 24 lakhs. That was for 12,000 units, right? So 24 lakhs divided by 12,000 into 14,400. So which comes to 2,88,000. So I'll better put it this way, because 120 percentage it was, right? So it is an increase by 120 percentage. So that is why it has been given here this way. Okay. Just a minute. So that's the case, and then contribution. Fixed cost of course remains the same, which is 6 lakhs. Okay. And then of course 20 percentage enhancement capacity, 20 percentage requires 20 lakhs of additional investment. If you look here, they have given in any case you got to find out the opportunity cost of capital of 15 percentage on that 20 lakhs. Since this is for decision making purpose, we are taking this opportunity cost, or as such opportunity cost is actually not included in the cost statement. So over here 20 lakhs, 15 percentage on 20 lakhs. So we arrive at the profit for the assembly department. Okay. And profit for the finishing department. So profit for the finishing department will remain the same, because in the first instance whatever they were trying to do, the same is going to come. So I have just taken profit for finishing division as 5,30,000. So if you see the overall profit of the company, it comes to 8,90,000 as per the second proposal. Okay. So initially it was 9,50,000. It has come down to 8,90,000 if additional capacity is produced, but it is sold in the outside market instead of transferring to finishing division. Then coming to the third proposal, if you see, division finishing has proposed for a transfer of whole of the output of the assembly division for rupees 280 per unit, and the additional units can be sold in the market at existing price, which will involve advertisement expenses to the extent of 4 lakhs, and fixed cost in the division will go up by 1 lakh. Okay. So has proposed for the transfer of whole of output of assembly division. So what is the whole of output of assembly division? It is 14,400. So the entire thing will be transferred to, see, at 280 rupees to them. Less variable cost, of course it's going to be the same, because the level of operations is the same. And then coming to contribution, then comes the fixed cost, which also remains the same. There is no change in the fixed cost, and the opportunity cost also remains the same. So it comes to 2,52,000. Okay. And then what else we analyze? Then coming to the finishing division. So what they are going to do is, whatever has been transferred to them, 14,400, the same will be sold in the open market at 450 rupees, less the transfer price of the production. So it was transferred at 280 rupees into 14,400. Okay, so variable cost. Variable cost, of course, it's going to go up, which has not been mistakenly recognized in the book. So what we are doing is variable cost of 6 lakhs of this division. Which division? The finishing division is 5 plus 1, 6 lakhs. This 6 lakhs is for basically 9,000 units, but now the inflow is 14,400 units. So if you see that the variable cost goes up to 9,60,000, which gives a contribution, and then less fixed cost of 5 lakhs and advertisement expenses to the extent of 4 lakhs. Got it? So it comes to 5,88,000 for the finishing division, and the total profit of the company 8,40,000. So if you see the second proposal, it was 8,90,000. In the third proposal, it has actually fallen to 8,40,000. So let's see what is there in the fourth proposal. Assembly division claims. Okay. Yeah. Assembly division claims that the transfer rate of rupees 280 is irrational in a sense of undue favor to the finishing division. Their cost, their cost, and the finishing division is given advantage of the market price for their products. So assembly division says that they are deprived of that price. So they are not going to transfer at 280. Instead, they are going to transfer at 300 rupees. So let's see what if the fourth proposal, this is the third one, okay. First one I didn't do it because it's a straightforward one, and this is the second proposal. And in the fourth proposal, assembly division. We'll start with all these things. I'll just erase the numbers. So instead of 280, they are going to go by 300. Yes. Variable cost, of course, it's the same level. Contribution. Fixed cost is 6 lakhs. Of course, it remains the same. And this 3 lakhs is the opportunity cost, because this additional unit expansion comes to 20 lakhs. So now it becomes 5 lakh 40,000. So earlier it was assembly division, if you see, it was 2 lakh 52,000, but it has gone up to 5 lakh 40,000 due to this decision making. 6 lakhs and 3 lakhs. Yeah, from 2 lakh 52,000 it has gone up to 5 lakh 40,000. Then coming to finishing division. So if we look at finishing division, I'll just copy paste the same thing over here. So here sales to the market, of course they are going to sell at the same rate of 450. There is no change about it, but the transfer price has changed. So that should be linked to the new one. Yes, now the transfer price. Variable cost, of course the calculation remains the same. Fixed cost goes up by 1 lakh and advertisement expenses of additional 4 lakhs has been incurred. Now profit of the finishing division is 3 lakhs and over here it is 5 lakh 40,000. So if we look at the overall profit of the company, it is 5 lakh 40,000 plus 3 lakhs, which is 8 lakh 40,000. Okay. So if we put all the proposals together, see, if we see the third and the fourth proposal, it's giving the same output. There is no change in it. Five lakh 40 and 3 lakhs. Yes. Overall level it is 8 lakh 40,000. So of course there will be a variation in the book calculation because they have not taken into consideration the thing. But here if you see under the third and the fourth proposal, it's the same over here also. Okay. So what happens is, in this case it is 8 lakh 40,000, 8 lakh 40,000, and this is total profit of the company was of course more, which was 8 lakh 90,000. Alright. Yes. Due to that variable cost calculation, right, it looks elevated there, and here the profits are bit less. So if you see, according to our calculation, the total profitability of the company is as per the second proposal. Okay. So I think they got to change something in the book because they have not considered the variable cost component. That will change for the finishing division, or they should have changed the question saying that there is no change in the variable cost, but that cannot happen when there is increase in number of units that they are going to work on. So are you able to understand how these adjustments are made? Yes. If you have any doubts, you can post me because the chat box is not enabled. You can post me on the WhatsApp. I can have a look at it if you have any doubts. Yes, Any doubts you have? I'll be anyway saving the calculations. Yeah. In the Google Drive, so you can still refer back to it, and if you have any doubts you can get back to me. Fine. So now we are going to do manpower analysis. Yeah. So before manpower analysis, while we were going through the other aspects, right? So we have finished till the profitability analysis. Contribution, you know, profit volume chart, another thing we discussed last class. And profitability analysis is the profitability ratios, okay? Working capital and liquidity management analysis. So basically here what can you expect is, you actually get a 10 marks question based on all the ratios that we have already seen in our inter. So I will also save that particular slide in the Google Drive. So please go through all those formulas, because we have also solved many questions based on that, on what is the current ratio, or they will ask what is the return on capital employed and other things. Fine. So these are all certain ratios which gives an indication about the efficiency of the organization. The performance of the organization is basically analyzed through these things. So I'm not getting into the depth of this because we have already seen this, so it's not a new thing for you. Fine. So next we move on to manpower analysis. Okay, so this is something new. So I have sent you few materials also for the manpower analysis. So when we look at the factors of production, so apart from raw materials, another thing is labor. And labor, of course, it deals with human, and human beings are different. The way they behave is totally different. It's not like you get the quality of raw materials and you are sure shot that the production is going to be this much. Right? So handling human resources itself is a very sensitive part, okay? But how are we going to forecast for any company or for any manufacturing unit or an industry? Manpower analysis is very, very important, because they need neither the excess of manpower is required, because that will be waste of money for the company, not the shortage of manpower, because that will result in slowdown of production, or it will make the production stop. So how do you accurately, of course not with accuracy you can do the planning, but to some extent the manpower planning needs to be done, and it is a cost intensive area. That is, labor cost is one of the major costs next to the raw material cost. So while we look at manpower planning, okay, so if you look at how do we do this, okay, so can you just post what are all the things which are related to manpower, that is the expenses related to the manpower. Maybe you can put it in the chat box, I mean in the WhatsApp, that will be fine. What are all the expenses that comes to your mind when you think about manpower, when you think about human resources being recruited in an organization? What is the cost to the company? Apart from the payment of whatever benefits, basic pay, allowance and other things, there are also additional costs which are not actually revealed in your offer letter. Offer letter only carries CTC, right? So there are also other expenses that the company spends on you for bringing you to the position or the job role. So what are those expenses? Just think and just type in my WhatsApp, in the WhatsApp group. Okay, cost of food, that is the cafeteria cost, okay. Cost of transport, okay. think in those lines, like when there is going to be an iteration, that is labor turnover, at that time what are the costs that the company is going to incur? Cost of maintaining the office is of course the infrastructure part. So what do you think if there is a labor turnover? Of course, training, that's an important thing. Because you know very well, recruitment cost, of course, recruitment cost, training cost, these are all apt. Because if you are anticipating 100 employees, right? 100 employees, if there are 20 employees who are moving out, so you will get another 20 employees to work on. So the food consumption or the maintenance of the building or the transport is not going to change much except for the recruitment, the training, because this is an additional cost to the company. So what is the rate you call for those people who are leaving the company? You have a specific terminology for that. Do you know that? Yes? So Rakesh is typing, yeah. Labor turnover rate, excellent. So iteration rate or the labor turnover rate is one of the major issues for the companies. So how far you keep your workforce motivated? Motivation is not just monetarily but also non-monetary motivation, like a promotion, okay, like a recognition that's given, okay, and opportunity for growth. Sometimes people are very much like interested in the growth perspective, okay, to only to some extent they'll be interested in the monetary benefits, but in order to get the satisfaction out of the job depends on how they are individually growing up, okay. So the growth opportunities, all these things are non-monetary kind of motivations that help to keep your workforce to be charged up, okay. So that will actually reduce the iteration or the labor turnover, fine. So that is why there are various other things that is adopted in your organization. Can you name some wherein you can keep moving to different jobs? What is that called basically? You can write it, I mean, you can put it in the chat box. Yeah, I mean, in WhatsApp. Yeah. Yeah, IJP. IJP is an important thing, that is internal job posting. So before offering the job to an outsider, it is first that opportunity is offered to the person who are inside the organization, that is to the present employees. And people try to move into different areas, and through internal job postings they keep climbing up, or they keep having a job rotation is also very important. So internal job postings. So first they look in for the employees who are currently with the company, and only after that they go for an outside hunt to find out new workforce. Fine. So these are all certain terminologies. So how are we going to do this manpower estimation? Okay. So this is what we are going to do in depth analysis. So here the cost is also taken into consideration, as well as right people at the right time and at the right place is very important. So right people, because the labor has a lot of categorization, skilled, unskilled, semi-skilled, even in skilled you have qualification wise, experience wise. So there are these many demarcations and splits in the workforce. So how are we going to actually target this? And this process cannot be prolonged for the time factor is also very important, because the time within which this is estimated for and recruitment happens is very important for the company to move on, okay. So when it comes to management auditor, so we look into the following ratios, areas to improve and optimize human resources, and will add value to the manpower analysis. So what are the things that will be given to you if you take a position of a management auditor, or what is that role you are going to play? First one, trend of training expenses incurred per employee. So one is the mandatory training. Mandatory training is nothing but whenever there is the company's policies, rules, regulations, and all those things needs to be communicated. So instead of putting it in a paper and then, in a PDF file and sending it across won't make sense at all. So we have certain mandatory trainings which gets uploaded and updated on a, on a recurring basis, and this needs to be compulsorily taken up by all the employees of the organization irrespective of their position. Let it be the lower level or middle level or the higher level. But the targeted thing is all the employees are in one go towards working towards the common objectives and goals of the organization within the defined rules and policies. Fine. So there comes the mandatory trainings. Another one is there are trainings for enhancing the knowledge. So there are some inbuilt trainings which actually keep the workforce updated in their knowledge. So while hiring, you will be hired based on your qualifications and experience. But while you actually go on job, right? So the requirement may be different, and as per the latest technological updates, everything will be changing. So if you have a redundant workforce, even that is a danger for the company. So you have to update them as and when the technological upgradation happens. So there comes the role of training programs. So training programs is not only the mandatory ones which keep you well versed with the company's rules, procedures, guidelines and policies, but also there are trainings which actually helps you to upskill yourself. Sometimes the company even gives funding for education, that is wherein you can upgrade your skills. You're doing some course around 50%, 60%, whatever may be the course fee, that will be reimbursed for you. So even that kind of a thing happens in organizations. So this is how you keep your workforce up to date. Then trend of production achieved per employee or per hour. See, when it comes to skilled laborers, right, at production level you say what is piece rate, what is per hour production and other things. But when it comes to skill level or the white collar jobs, in that, blue collar jobs. So in white collar jobs, basically employees are judged on the time that they are actually working on an, it could be a project, it could be an assignment, or it could be a normal activity. Fine. So this actually helps to understand effectiveness of training, the condition of plant and machinery. Unless and until there is no breakdown of plant and machinery and the process is actually going on smoothly, what is the productivity of an employee in an organization? Then the qualification and experience of employees. These all come under trend of production. Then coming to trend of resignation or leaving of employees. So this actually gives, so when you leave an organization, there are exit interviews. There are even interviews for that too, like to analyze why you are leaving an organization, because that records will help the HR to work on what is the main reason behind people leaving an organization. So if there is something regarding a monetary thing or a non-monetary stuff or recognition or growth or something, they will try to bring in those changes in the company in order to retain the workforce. So that way this trend is actually helpful or is a good indicator for satisfaction or otherwise of the employees. Then coming to trend of new recruitments. If there is an expansion projects or a new plant coming in, of course we know that there will be new recruitments, right? But if there is no such expansion but still you are going for a new recruitment, this is the other side of analyzing the labor turnover. Then you have ratio of labor or direct labor productivity. So in terms of number of labor hours, in terms of productive hours, man hours, value of wages, all these things form part of ratio of labor productivity. Fine. So these are all the ratios, these are all the trend analysis which will be done as a management auditor to see how far the workforce is satisfied, how far the workforce is equipped with the latest knowledge, okay, and all these things will actually help to reduce or control the cost that is invested in the human resources. Fine. So coming to estimation of manpower. So how are we going to estimate the manpower? First one, total number of employees presently available, their types, nature of work, wages, etc. So here comes a lot more detailing of your manpower. If you are taking skilled laborer, okay, you have seasonal laborers who are on contract basis. You have some people who are on permanent roles, and there are also different demarcations like 0 to 2 years of experience, 2 to 5 years of experience more than that. Okay, then a detailed job description for each of the position of employee working in different departments. In a holistic way, it will look, oh, it's a very cumbersome thing. Yeah, that's of course a cumbersome thing when you look at an organization as a whole, because there are a lot of job positions that are being taken up. Alright, so there are a lot of job positions having lot of requirements, but a correct job description and a correct human resource or labor, or I mean to say a person, okay, so at the right time, at the right place is important for the company to move forward. Then comes age distribution, qualifications, experience of the employees. Then comes estimation of short, medium and long-term manpower needs. So these are all the different dimensions from which the estimation of manpower actually takes place in an organization. Fine. So what are the basic objectives behind this estimation? So this we have already seen. First one, to make available the human resource in adequate quantity and of the required quality. Quality is important here. Then to reduce the recruitment and replacement cost. So as it was correctly said by Rakesh that yes, for training they do spend, right? So training, recruitment, all these things involves cost. Though it is not shown in your offer letter under CTC, this is an additional cost to the company. To reduce labor cost associated with attrition, to improve the employee morale and satisfaction, to control unnecessary expansion or rapid expansion or reduction in workforce. See, reduction in workforce nowadays, like if you look into the service sector, basically the BPOs, right? Companies like Accenture, Cognizant, then there are many companies, even Capgemini, and then they all work on like the projects. So they call whether the human resources, like the people go on bench. What is that, going to bench? See, they'll say I'm on bench. I'm on bench in the sense they are not assigned to any of the projects, or there is no non-availability of projects to be assigned to them. The people who are in bench, they are given a particular period of time, like for 3 months or 4 months, where they can do an internal search of any job roles that can suit them. Even after 3 months, if they are not able to find any roles internally in the organization, then they got to quit the organization. This is how happens for those companies who are based on the projects, execution of projects. So that is one way where people feel insecure, because always, so how you as an individual, as an employee, what are the things which is important for you to survive in such a kind of an environment? Is keeping your morale high, then ready to adapt things, and upskilling yourself will help you a lot to sustain any changes. Got it? And anything else you can also give me on the WhatsApp, right? Any suggestions on how you can actually withhold your position, you don't go redundant. What could be the things that you look forward as an employee of the company? So I am talking from the employee perspective, not from the company perspective. If you have any, you can just post it in the WhatsApp group. Yes. How can you retain yourself in an organization? Even that should be your goal. Yes, continuous upskilling. Different roles and assignments, that's great. So that you can be placed anywhere as per the requirement. So it's not like you are just going to do one line of thing and you are not going to look in here or there. It should not be the case. You should try to assume and stick to a particular role also for a longer period of time. That is also important. Like if you keep frequently changing, right, you cannot gain experience out of it or expertise. So being an expert is also important. If you are an SME, nobody can replace you. That is what is a subject matter expert. Fine? Yeah. Yeah, great. So by continuous upskilling yourself and by undertaking different roles and assignment. Yes, of course, Rakesh, you are right. So there is something called manpower inventory. See, inventory as such we know is of raw materials, finished goods and work in progress, which are tangible in nature. But when it comes to manpower inventory, it is intangible in nature, of course. But what are all the steps involved in recording the manpower inventory? So we actually don't do human resource accounting in our books of accounts. Okay, we don't, though human resources are valued to the company. Till now, like many companies don't do that human resource accounting because it keeps changing. It is very much sensible as well as a variable component, which is very difficult to estimate and include in your balance sheet. But of course, a company with a highest morale and job satisfaction of the employees will flourish when compared to a company where there is low employee morale and the ineffective workforce and there is a lot of or a higher labor turnover. These things we know, but this also adds value to the company, but this quantifying it becomes a difficult job. Fine. So when we talk about manpower inventory, what are the steps that are involved in manpower inventory? So manpower inventory is prepared for a person working on important post. That is the post that cannot be made redundant or they are very important for the organization to move forward. So one is at higher levels, management levels, because they are the key decision makers. Another one is at operating levels 2, wherein you have the skilled employees without whom the production cannot go further. So I am talking about a manufacturing plant. Fine. So operative staffs, executives. So from operative staff, only those persons are included in the inventory who have the potential of taking higher responsibility post. That is, who can have a vertical movement in an organization. Then, first is whom to be included under manpower, human resources. Second one, after determining the persons who needs to be included, we have to collect the information about them through interviews or talks with the concerned person, getting information about their age, of course health, experience, education. Age is an important factor also, okay? Attitude towards work. All these things should be taken into account. So a summary statement of information is prepared about each person and it is kept ready for consultation. Next step is to apprise the talent catalog. That is, whoever have been chosen to be included under manpower and whatever information have been collected about those individuals. A further step more is what are their future capabilities of that particular person. How far they can be scaled up in an organization. This needs to be assessed. So how this is done? Of course, training programs, self-assessment programs, appraisal test, remarks, okay, all these things play an important role. So the manpower inventory will enable the managers to know the present and the future potential of all individuals and their sustainability for various jobs. So this is how manpower inventory is actually recorded. Fine, then moving on to the strategic process for manpower planning. So what are all the things that is done in the process of manpower planning? First comes collection, maintenance and interpretation of relevant information regarding the human resources. Then periodical review of manpower objectives and requirements. Of course, this forms part of your periodic appraisals that take place. That shows how far you have grown up, how far you are contributing to the organization, how far you are clear about the objectives of the organization, and how far is your contribution towards it. So that is like your self-assessment. Okay, so the appraisal is just not your self-assessment, but also monetarily it will benefit you based on the ratings that are given as part of appraisals. Then periodical review of manpower objectives and requirements. So there could be quarterly conversations that can take up, or there could be some ad hoc things that is coming on the way. Development of procedures and techniques to determine the requirements of different types of manpower over some time. These are basically like if you look at from the customer perspective. So there could be some trends, emerging trends in the market. So how are you going to equip your human resources, equip your employees to take up such challenges, to take up such tasks and to satisfy the customer expectations. Then employment of suitable techniques for the effective allocation of work to improve the manpower utilization. So manpower utilization, if you speak, if it is going to be at the operation level, right? At the operation level, we have even the motion studies on place to see like how much hours is required for doing an activity and stuff. But when it comes to the other kind, wherein it's a paperwork or it's on your systems, even then the manpower utilization is how many hours you are effectively working on the stuff. So it even includes the idle time, the break that you take, how many productive hours is important over there. Then conducting surveys for determining the factors that are going to hamper the contribution of individuals as well as of the groups in the organization for modifying or removing those handicaps. So basically here understanding the process end to end and the ways and means to reach the end and the time involved in each and every process and how you can place controls so that there is no process deviations and at the same time reduce the processing time, processing of transaction. When it comes to a service company, it is transaction. When it comes to a manufacturing company, it is the time involved in the process. Okay, so all these needs to be considered. Then development and employment of methods of economic assessment of human resources, that is reflecting its features as an income generator and cost. Then procurement, promotion, retention, okay, of the effective manpower resources. The promotion and retention is something very difficult because there is a point where the employer and employee comes to a conclusion. Okay, employee says I am satisfied with what I am paid. The employer says yeah, this is the correct payment. So that point to be reached is very difficult. But how are you going to achieve it? Because monetary things actually retain the employees. But just not the monetary things, the working environment, the flexibility they get, the work-life balance, which is often talked about today. Okay, so if you see in India, the parameters for work-life balance has actually come down. So when you say you are working from home, it's like you are always available 24 hours. So people find it easy to work in an office than to work in an work from home, because it's like you are available all the 24 hours. Okay, with the laptop, with the remote connectivity. So this is how, these are all the factors also crucial for an employee to stay motivated. Analysis and controlling of organizational processes and structure for encouraging maximum individual and group performance without incurring excessive cost. So performance, how you are going to gear up the performance with the existing workforce is actually pay more for your company. Okay. So if you look at series of activities which are involved in manpower planning, first one is forecasting for future manpower requirements. So there will be a forecast on what will be the supply, what will be the demand. So you have to actually find out demand and supply function of labor requirement. So if you are going to foresee that these are the new projects that they are going to come in and they need these set of skills of employees, are they currently with us? Are we are going to recruit? How are we going to recruit? Okay, and how are we going to match the demand with the supply? Will help the organization to go forward, to move forward. So then comes making an inventory of present manpower resources. That is, there comes the assessment of your present manpower. So that is what is valuation of manpower inventory. And then you assess to the extent to which these manpower resources can be employed optimally. And after that, you take a step on recruiting fresh recruits from outside. Because if you are going to have a recruitment from outside, that is from the open market, then it will have a time gap, a cooling period through which the people should get accustomed to the organization goals, policies, rules, regulations. Then they have to get accustomed to the on-job training, and only then they will be employed. They will become productive only after that. It's not immediately you are given an offer letter, you are getting appointed and you are just going to start your work from day one. It's not the case. So there is always a time lag between the recruitment and the person actually when he starts contributing towards the productivity of the organization. So this time gap needs to be filled. So that is why we have already these internal job postings and other thing wherein job rotations, wherein the important roles are being filled up with the existing employment, with the existing human resources. That becomes much easier. Okay, so they are like easily deployable. There is no much of a cooling period for them to get into the organization. So these are all the advantages of internal job postings and looking for your own existing human resources. So how you are going to optimally use it will reduce the search for human resources from outside. Then anticipation of manpower problems by projecting the present resources into the future and making the comparison with the estimation of human requirements to determine their adequacy, both qualitative and quantitative. Planning of the programs of selection, training, development, utilization. So if you look, there is more of HR work involved in this. Right from looking at the training programs, right from screening up the candidates, job profile, the job description that they have got for each and every type is going to be a job on for more. It's a more of a job of a HR. Okay. So important steps that are involved. First one, anticipation of manpower requirements. Next one, proper planning. Then analysis of their skill. Then selection of adequate and suitable sources of recruitment. So when we talk about human resource planning, analysis of organizational plans. So here we have already discussed on demand forecasting, supply forecasting, okay, and all those things. So next, if we move on, there are certain techniques in which the manpower planning is done. So let's directly move into it, or else it's going to be the same thing repeated again and again. Fine. So if we see over here, So what is the process involved? Okay. Yeah. What are the important steps that are involved in manpower analysis? First one, analysis of the objectives of the organization about human resource planning. What is their guideline? What is the expectation of the organization? That should be understand first before even estimating what is the human resource requirement that they are looking for in the future. So analysis of the organization plan will actually help the quality and the quantity of manpower that is required. So that is what is analysis. Then forecasting the future human resource needs. So how you are going to forecast it? Based on demand and supply, as well as based on the future upcoming projects or future upcoming demands in the organization. So all those things will help to forecast the future human resource needs. This is the second one. Coming to the third one is forecasting the supply of manpower. So first we should know what is there with us, which is manpower inventory. Then afterwards we have to do manpower audit. Manpower audit is nothing but how far efficiently and optimally the present human resources are utilized. If you see some idle time and other things, you can try to put them into new roles. So manpower audit is one of the case. Then job evaluation. So every job has to be justified as per the requirement of the organization. It's not like you have a job in place and it doesn't have any relevance, because even jobs can become redundant. Got it? So that is part of job evaluation. So all these three things contribute to forecast the supply of manpower. Then coming to comparing the demand forecast with the supply function. So that is easy. Preparing the plans and programs, that is based on the information that is available. That is, we have analyzed the supply as well as the demand. How are we going to? So when we decide upon this is the quantity, that is the number of laborers that we, human resources that we are looking at it, and the quality of human resources. So both will be judged, and accordingly the plans and programs will be rolled out. Okay. So that is something called golden handshake, a terminology called. So do you know anything about golden handshake? What is this? During COVID situation, there were many golden handshake that happened. So if you have any idea about it, you can put it in the WhatsApp. What do you understand by the term golden handshake? Yes. So the golden handshake is like you want. Like during COVID, many people faced difficulties at the managerial roles. See, managerial roles are something, they are in between the operational levels and the highest level of management. So at one point of time, the company felt the pressure on the cost of paying the managers. You have a lot of managers in place, which is not actually required for the company. So what happened, people from that roles were slowly given a golden handshake, and they were asked to leave the company with a compensation. That is even before they voluntarily come for resignation, right? The company will notify them and give a golden handshake and discontinue their services. So this was faced during COVID. And those who were in the managerial positions were also paid at a higher rate, right? So those people, when they came into the open market, it was very difficult for them to find a job to match their last drawn salary, that is the CTC. So it actually became difficult for those people to survive. So unless and until you are a subject matter experts or your skills are very important and are in demand, There is always a case of you being out of an organization. So that is how constant upskilling and being a subject matter expert will help you in a long way. So it's not just the team management, okay? Team management is one side of it. But understanding the process, having the process knowledge, then there will be, you should make yourself in such a way, you should place yourself in such a way that there is no replacement being found for you. In that case, you become more secure, your job is more secure. So we constantly learn every day through the process. We have to constantly upskill us. We have to constantly even upgrade our qualifications. So that's why few people are there for upgrading their qualifications, because that also helps them to retain the positions. Right? So these are all the ways and means in which you don't get into the category of being pushed out of an organization. Fine? Then comes techniques used to determine the requirements of personnel. Okay, so let's take a small break of 10 minutes and then resume our session. Is that fine? So it's 7:33, we start our session by 7:43. Got it? Yes. Yes. Shall we resume? Yes, Anu, are you back from the break?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So let's move on to different, like here we will be learning the techniques or the methodologies that can be used to forecast. Because we have already been telling, see the labor turnover rate or do the stability, assess the stability of the human resources. So all these, there are certain formulas or the techniques that can be used to arrive at a number. Okay, so all that we are going to see now. So while we look at approaches to HR demand forecasting, how are you going to forecast? So there are quantitative approaches as well as qualitative approaches. In quantitative approaches, how do you do? So select an appropriate business factor. Okay. Frequently sales or value added is used as a predictor in trend analysis. So you make a trend analysis of sales over a period of time or the value add. Second, plot a historical trend of the business factor above several employees. That is labor productivity ratio. Finding out labor productivity ratio is ratio of the employees to the business factors is what is labor productivity ratio. Then what you do is you compare the productivity ratio for at least the past 5 years. So here data plays an important role. And then you calculate the human resource demand by dividing the business factor by the productivity ratio. And finally, the target for the year will be arrived at. So basically here you are going to make a trend analysis for the past 5 years based on labor productivity ratio on the variables such as sales or value add. So this is how you can do it quantitatively. But when it comes to qualitative approach, then what else you can do? So are the opinions or the judgment of supervisors, what the people at managerial level feel about it, or the experts. For example, at the Ripe Tomato, a growing family dining chain, each restaurant manager is responsible for employment forecast. So they will be contacted. Whoever is for there, each of the branch manager will be contacted. Another one is Delphi technique. Delphi technique is one of the technique wherein the subjectivity of forecast is reduced by involving a group of pre-selected individuals, inviting them and summarizing their judgments. So here what happens is under Delphi technique, a group decision making process is actually invoked. Okay. So this works in best situations where dynamic technological changes happens affecting the staff levels. And HRP means human resource planning. Then they many times go further and analyze the demand based on the following. So first one was, how are you going to arrive at the target for the year? Like how many people do you need? So how do you do the demand forecasting? So we saw the quantitative as well as qualitative. Then we are now moving on to how do you analyze the demand. One is workforce analysis. So here you are going to assess your workforce or the human resource that the company is having by calculating the labor turnover rate. Labor turnover rate indicates how many people are sticking to your organization, how many are leaving. Then absenteeism, how many people are on leave, because even that affects the production. So qualitative goes in long way of looking at the promotion, transfer, vertical movement and all those things. This is workforce analysis. You analyze your workforce first. Then you move on to workload analysis. That is the work, the quantity and the quality of work that is assigned to a person in the organization. So this takes into consideration absenteeism, idle time, etc. Even overtime will also come under workload analysis, because overtime is also a place where an additional cost is incurred. So usually people have a tendency, see, when it is overtime payment, right? Overtime is paid, either it will be the rate higher than what you are usually paid. So people, what they do is, there are chances in places where people usually while away their time during the job hours, and they stick on to overtime and try to finish up the job in that overtime. So who is going to lose out of it? The company is going to incur an extra cost due to this overtime. So basically the company discourages on overtime aspect. So whatever is the production time, whatever is the allocated time hours, whatever is done through that, by avoiding all these idle time and stuff, it can be productively utilized instead of going for an overtime thing. Then coming to job analysis, that is finding out the abilities or skills that is required for a particular job. So whenever you apply for a job, right, you always look into the job description. Though it may say manager or executive manager, that has got no relevance at all, though it is in your organizational chart and the levels that you occupy. But what is the actual roles and responsibilities, and what is that is expected out of you is the main criteria. Right, so there could be cases where they say you should be easily adaptable to shift changes or location changes, ready to travel. So all these things are the expectations that are set for a job. So how this job description is tailored? So that is what is job analysis. Fine. So job analysis in the first place is done by the organization, and then when it comes to you as an individual to apply for a job, you go through the job description and see whether it will suit your requirement, and only then you got to apply. Then we move on to manpower supplying forecasting. So we saw the demand. Demand is workforce analysis, workload analysis and job analysis. What on the supply side? So manpower supplies can come from internal sources first, and then you move on to the external sources. When it comes to internal sources, you go with the present employees, the rate of internal turnover of personnel, that is how far the job rotation and other things are happening. Internal job postings are there which are open for the existing employees, and then there are called employee referrals, that is you get references from your existing employees. Even that is a good way to recruit human resources. Fine. Analysis of retention. Analysis of retention is basically minimizing your labor turnover rate. So how this rate is calculated? It is number of leavers in the year, that is who quit the organization. Number of people quitting the organization in an year divided by average number of employees during that year multiplied by 100 will give you the labor turnover rate. If the labor turnover rate is high, the company is going to very much suffer on its production, and it's going to incur a high cost on recruitment as well as training if it is going to hire from outside. So labor turnover rate is an important factor to analyze how far the human resources are motivated to work for your company or organization. Okay. Stability. Stability is the other way around. Okay. Wherein the people who are sticking to your organization, that is called stability index. That is the proportion of how many employees are sticking to the organization for at least 1 year divided by total number of employees into 100 will give you the percentage of people who are high in morale and are satisfied to work in the organization. So it is used, stability is used along with the labor turnover rate in order to forecast the supply. Then cohort analysis. Cohort means a homogeneous group of employees who joined the organization during a fixed period. That is, they give you the year within which these many employees have joined, and they draw the graphs of the leaving patterns of employees. For example, in 2024-25, or they may go by even calendar year, that's fine, any year is fine. You take that time period where the maximum recruitment has taken place. You try to track those set of employees who joined together and what is the pattern of leaving the organization by them. So this will actually give an information on the way the trend of leaving is actually happening in the organization. So based on these graphs, the wastage rate or the stability rate can be determined. The main advantage is the behavior of the group have to be followed over a longer period of time. It's not like a short period of time, you just check for 6 months trend or 1 year. It should be for a longer period of time. So this is one of the way to find out the stability of the employees apart from the stability index. Then comes census method. So what do we do in census method is a section. A section is selected from the whole labor force and their behavior is examined for a short period, usually a year. And what happens is histograms are drawn to show the length of services of those persons who have left the organization, that is the leavers to the organization. The main advantage is we can know about all the employees of a particular category. Okay. So every individual in the selected group contributes to the wastage pattern, which can be quickly calculated and put on use for testing and forecasting. So this is another way of analyzing the human resource. Then comes determining the manpower gaps. How do you determine? So these are all the methods: census method, coherent analysis, stability analysis, labor turnover. These are all part of manpower supply forecasting techniques. Okay. Then then we have other techniques, this manpower plan framework and all. Approaches for developing manpower planning. What are the techniques for developing manpower planning? How are you going to do that? They call that HRP, human resource planning. First one is planning for the status quo. So planning involves steps to replace any employees who are either promoted or who have decided to leave the firm. For example, okay, management succession planning, which seeks to ensure that there is at least one qualified manager to replace any higher level manager in the organization. So that is why when you learn the process, right, always an eye is kept on how far you are good in team building, because it's not just the job that you do. How far you are there to motivate a team and how far you can be upskilled on the management side as well. Even we need managers to manage a team, to direct the team. So it's not like it's your own wish whether you want to be a subject matter expert or you want to be an individual contributor or you want to upskill yourself or put yourself, because people sometimes are having power hungers. They like to have great designations, then they derive satisfaction from the designations. There are also set of people like that. So human behavior is unpredictable. Whoever wants what, they will choose. So accordingly the organization has to play around. Fine. Then comes the thumb rule. Thumb rule is, for example, one firm believes that a ratio of one production supervisor for every 12 workmen is optimal. So this is what 1:12 ratio. So if there is going to be a team of workmen, they should be under one supervisor. So this is a thumb rule. It is based on experience, like how many people can be put under one supervisor. Then comes Markov analysis. So Markov analysis, I just want to take you through an article on this Markov analysis. It is like a chain reaction, okay? It's time series data. So let me just take you through that. So if I see over here, yes, it is used in various cases. It's not just for human resource analysis, but here in this context we are taking this Markov analysis in the human resource context. So if you look at what is Markov analysis, it is a method used to predict the value of a variable solely based on its current state. disregarding any past activity. So what do they do is likelihood. It's a type of a stochastic model where the probability of each event depends solely on the state achieved in the preceding event. Is known as Markov property or memorylessness. Okay, so here Markov property, if we have to understand, from human resource perspective. So I have a very good example to say what Markov analysis is. So suppose there is a company with various job roles like managers, job A, who are on the management side, engineers, job B, who are the experts, technical experts. Then you have support staff who are in job C. So they want to predict how these roles will evolve over time and how many of them may transition into other roles. So a guy who is an engineer today, maybe he can become a manager tomorrow. A guy who is in the support staff may upskill his knowledge and may try into engineer kind of a role or a subject matter expert. So how far this movement is going to take place is what is analyzed in a matrix form. To do this, they create a Markov matrix which shows the chances of employees moving between job categories from one time period to the next period. For instance, if there is a 60% chance a manager will stay in his role from time 1 to time 2 is taken care in that matrix. See, if you see job ABC, time 1, time 2. So a matrix is formed out of this and the analysis is made. So for example, they may find that job D is projected to have more employees at time 2 when compared to time 1. So what happens? They will try to increase the number of people they require for doing job D. So this is how Markov analysis is made, wherein a matrix is built taking into consideration what could be the possible probabilities or the movement of employees from one role to another role within the organization between the two time periods. Okay, so this is what is Markov analysis. I have very well sent the link for that. This is in order to understand the concept, right? If it is with examples, then it is very easy to understand. So that is what they have told. Markov chains makes it possible to predict the size of manpower that is required per category. So it is the job category. Resignation, dismissal, retirement, death, that is also included in it. So they can obtain long-term average probabilities or equilibrium probabilities. Then comes unit forecasting. Unit-wise, how do you do that? This is bottom-up approach for forecasting, as the selections are made by lower level management and added together at a higher level of the organization. So this basically concentrates at the lower level of the organization. Then comes ratio trend analysis. For example, to perform an existing amount of work, it will take 12 people to do twice as much. So the organization will measure the activity level in a variety of different ways. That is, the ratio between the direct and indirect in manufacturing is a classic one. Like a sales department, for example, may have an idea of number of customers that could be attended by a salesperson. So you know very well, when you go for a customer care support, right? So there are many iBots that are being implemented in place. Why? This is in order to avoid or reduce the number of calls which are repetitive in nature and that can be taken care by the robots itself. So like when you do a reservation, airline reservation. So if you want to place a request for maybe you want to check the status of the flight or the time of the flight. So you need not actually always call a customer care executive to know that, because it's already in the database, like this is the scheduled time of departure or this is the scheduled time of arrival. So this thing can be easily handled by a robot, iBot, instead of you contacting a customer care service. So when the customer care service provider, okay, he is going to get, you are going to reduce the calls which are repetitive in nature or which can be just answered from the system. Then what happens? The executives who are available are there to handle the key problems. So this is one way of looking at how efficiently you do it. So that is what, see, may have an idea of number of customer calls a salesperson should make in a week. Even that can be efficiently done by bringing in all these technologies in place. Then coming to Delphi method. In Delphi method, it's once again, as I told, expert opinions are gathered together. It is subjective in nature basically. Interviews, questionnaires are prepared and they are collated to make a decision. Computer simulation. Simulation is basically assigning the random numbers and it's working on a vast data spreading across many years. So if you look at computer simulation, is a mathematical representation of major organizational processes, policies and human resource movement through organization computer simulations. So these simulation techniques are also adopted. Then coming to time and motion study. So here the industrial engineers actually record the movement of workman and the productivity and the time that is required to conduct specific activities. Then we have MOST, M-O-S-T technique. What is this? Most Maynard operation sequence technique. So I'll just give you an article to work on it. This is very interesting, okay. So if you just look at this link, right, it gives in detail on what is MOST is all about. MOST is nothing but Maynard operation sequence technique, which was named after the person who developed it, named H.B. Maynard and Company Incorporation, basically based in USA. So this technique is based on fundamental statistical principles and basic work measurement data compiled over many years. So MOST concentrates on movement of objects. It was noticed that the movement of objects follow certain repeated patterns such as reach, grasp, move and position of the object. So these patterns are studied in order to find the sequence of events that are followed in moving an object. So why most, or what is the methodology involved? Methodology is very interesting. So in order to carry out this study, work measurement exercise, and to arrive at a standard time for each and every activity that is being carried out in an organization, what procedure is recommended? First one, awareness and training program in a group of around 20 to 25 consisting of management, supervisors and operators. This training program will be of 4 days. Identification of group of employees department wise for carrying out the work measurement by MOST. So they will be asked to note down the times of each and every activity that they carry out in an organization. Then allocate the responsibilities to each and every group of employees and measurement for all the activities in the shop floor, approval of work measurement done by the team, then arrive at the standard time for each activities. Then application of the standard time and data for work allocation for operator. Toyota production technique can be applied for work distribution. So implementation of the above work distribution in shop floor in other production areas. So this is how it is done in an organization when we look at MOST. So it's mostly like motion study, time and motion study. How do you arrive at the time that is consumed to perform an activity? Okay, so this is one of the techniques. Of course, advantages and all these things are not required. Fine. So did you get a wholesome approach on what is manpower analysis and what are all the things that goes into it? Yes? Anu, are you fine with the concepts? The techniques, yes, you can put a thumbs up because I am not able to hear your voice. Yep, great. Then let's move on to other small topics. Okay, so one is on other areas suggested to be covered in the report on performance analysis. So if we look at it, right? So how do you analyze a performance of an entire department or an organization? First one is variance analysis. What was projected and what actually happened. You compare it, you will come to arrive at a conclusion whether whether that department or an organization is doing well or not. Research variance. It is not just enough you compare and say that is a variance. You get to the root cause of it. That is research. Analyze metrics. So it is not just always the financial things that is taken into consideration, even the non-financial key business metrics is an helpful tool. So that is more of an analysis. Then review of competitor performance, that is we called SWOT analysis. Strength, weakness, opportunity and threat needs to be carried out across the competitors. So then you will understand what is your strength, what is your weaknesses that you need to work on, and how the opportunity, the threats are going to be converted into opportunities for you. So that is SWOT analysis. This is done in order to review the competitor's performance. And then decide on the changes, gaps noticed post analysis of performance, scope of improvement needs to be explored. So possibility of multiple alternatives for the same shortcoming also can be ruled out. So these are the things. Then coming to management accounting tools. So now I think you are all expert in management accounting tools because we have already done a lot of techniques under management accounting. So first is break-even analysis. That is to find out a point where there is total cost is equal to total revenue. So it's a no profit or no loss situation. This is break-even analysis. Capital budgeting is the major budgeting decisions that you take. So you take the discounting factors, yeah, you go by the net present values. So that is capital budgeting. Constraint analysis, that is finding out the key bottlenecks. Then inventory analysis. Now inventory analysis is a hot topic. So it is useful for calculating the cost of goods sold as well as placing the value or assigning the value to the raw materials and the finished goods that are left in your stock. Margin analysis is nothing but your profit analysis. Then transaction analysis, trend analysis. So all these are different tools of management accounting. So based on financial accounting information, what are all the things you can do? Fund flow, cash flow, then financial statements. We have all those comparative statements, trends, graphs, diagrams, ratio analysis, return on capital employed. Based on cost accounting information, you are also well versed in this, taking into account the standard costing, marginal costing, analysis of cost variances and stuff. Based on mathematics, we have OR, that is operation research, PERT, CPM, queuing theory, gaming theory, network analysis, simulation theory. So all these are all based on mathematics. Then when we look at the future information, of course, budgeting, forecasting, project analysis or appraisal or evaluation. Miscellaneous tools we have managerial reporting, decision making accounting, MIS, management information system is what is the trending one. Revaluation accounting, financial planning, integrated auditing, managerial reporting. So if you look at financial planning, financial statement analysis, these are all something which you already know about it. So these are just the theory part of what is financial statement analysis, cost accounting, fund flow, cash flow, standard costing. So I'm just skipping this because you already know about it. Got it? Revaluation accounting. So you will be doing a lot of these things, revaluation in your valuations management. That is when there is a merger or acquisition, how the fair values are determined and how you arrive at the firm value, and then you decide upon the consideration. So that comes in mergers and acquisitions. Decision making accounting, MIS, statistical techniques, management reporting and all those things. So this is easy, alright. And then of course we have worked on the problems over here, and then we move on to, yeah, this is interesting. Well, we say KPI, those are the key performance indicators. How do you know what are the key performance indicators? So, well, we look at the financial performance. So, first on the list is the turnover. What is the sales of the company? So, how you are going to compare this turnover with other parameters is going to be important. First one, segmental revenue to the total revenue. How each of the segment is performing. Total turnover growth percentage. How far the sales has grown over a period of time. Maybe you will look into past 5 years data. Growth percentage in new product sales. Customer wise sales. So you also go by customers. Top 5 customers and bottom 5 customer sales. So these are all the measurement which will help you to study on your turnover, which is a key performance indicator which gives you or which will help you to evaluate the financial performance. So measurement is basically, it could be ratios, percentages. It will be based on one indicator, that could be turnover, margin, cost, whatever may be the thing, and that will actually go into evaluation of a particular feature. Like here, if you are going to see the financial performance of a company, turnover is one of the things. Then comes margins. So margin on total sales, margin on segment sales, margin percentage on new products, margin customer wise gross margin percentages. So in margin we have gross margin, net margin, yes. Then coming to cost. So element wise cost, what is the turnover, what is the cost composition, all those things, variable cost, fixed cost. Then returns. Returns could be on the investment made or on the capital employed, earning per share, dividend per share. Right, retention ratio is nothing but your dividend policy that goes to determine what is your retention ratio. Market price per share, price earning ratios, return on income for new products, return on income based on the geographical locations. So all these calculations will help you to, calculations come from a particular indicator, that is return, and that return will help you to assess the financial performance. Coming to balance sheet, it's very easy. All the ratios, quick ratio, current ratio, asset turnover ratio, debt equity ratio, net worth and all those things. Then those are all based on all your financial statements. Coming to your productivity and efficiency. How far the company is doing good on the productivity and how efficiently is their production. So basic driving factors or the factors of production. So first comes material, labor, then machine. These three. So when you look at material, how much is your material composition cost? Material cost to the percentage as to the total cost. What are the material wastages that is happening? What is the contribution per unit of material used? Then coming to labor, what is the production per man hour? What is the production per employee? What is the idle time percentage? Then coming to the machine, so capacity utilization, production per machine hour, breakdown hours. So all these indicators comes from the machine. I mean, it's based on the machine, and this gives you an idea of how far is the productivity and efficiency of the organization. Then coming to manufacturing performance. Manufacturing is nothing but how the point of time when the raw material is fed into a machinery until it turns into a final product. It's basically the operating cycle. So it could be material turnover, work in progress turnover, or finished goods turnover. Then coming to the customer performance. This is a sensitive area where you are going to deal with the customers. Customers are the people who are going to dictate your business. So first comes the complaints. How far the complaints, after sale services, how far the complaints have been resolved. Okay, the satisfaction, the customer satisfaction is important. So getting feedback, okay, improvising your customer services. Development, due to which how far you have expanded your customer base. So that is the business development across years. Then the risk, of course, you give credit but you have a default risk. payment and delays, which will help your working capital in. So retention and satisfaction. So customers, how do you retain them? How do you attract the prospective customers? How do you assess the customer satisfaction index? And on-time order execution, correct order execution, quality, and average time which is spent on customer relation. Overall, that is order cash to cash, cash cycle actually, cash to cash conversion. Delivery is on-time supplies of full quantity. Quality is the percentage of rejections. Okay, so if your product is going to suffer quality, automatically it is going to affect your customers. So if you are going to compromise on, if you are going to price your product, you are going to price it low, compromising the quality. Initially you may get sales through cheaper prices, but over a period of time you cannot sustain in the market if the quality is out of question. Okay, then cost, price reductions, agreed cost effect, price escalations and the cost effect, and overall is supplier satisfaction index, that is who are supplying to you. So all these are key performance indicators and the performance areas and the various measurement tools in place. Fine. So then we move on to just 10 more minutes left, and we just move on to, okay, then we have all management audit in different functions. That's a altogether chapter where we'll be studying about different types of audit. Got it? So I think we have covered enough on manpower planning today and other key performance indicators. Right? So I would like to wind up the session over here. Fine? So that's all for today. We will meet on Wednesday to discuss on management audit in different functions. So that is study note 11 that we have in place. So 11, 12 and 13, and that's it. Our syllabus will be done. Fine. So management audit in different functions. Basically it goes with short notes. Okay, that will be there. Fine. So that's all from my side, guys. Thank you all and good night.